Hello all and welcome back to another edition of Yachts Tutorials. This is round 4 of surviving day 1 in No Man's Sky. And this one will be on making it into space. You finally got your ship repaired and it's time to make your way up into the stars. But first, let's get some management stuff out of the way. First of all, I noticed in the last 3 videos that I didn't have any game sound, so I got that fixed while I was away managing my videos. So I got that fixed, so you'll notice sound this time. First of all, first you want to go into your settings, go to options, go to network, and make sure PvP is always set to no one. For some reason, Hello Games decided that PvP would always be default to anyone in every game that you start. So always make sure that's always turned off, and always set this, and this, and this. All of these to no one, and this. To invite only. For now. Some of these you'll end up turning back to friends only once you've decided whether you want to play multiplayer or not. Then you can back out. Now into your inventory. Go to your exosuit and the stuff that you've picked up. These things that say JN on them, they can have a purpose, but mostly in your early game when you don't have very many slots in your exosuit, they just take up space that is very valuable. So I dump them. This right here that looks like a crystal, called a geode. If you analyze it, I've got 3 of them. If you analyze it, it just adds to whatever that you picked it up from. In this case, cobalt. And that frees up another slot. This, as I told you earlier, when you put it in your refiner, it will make more sodium. So I'll show you that in a bit. Portable refiner actually takes up a slot, and I'll show you what you can do about that in a moment. So we go here, drop a refiner on the ground, and drop our sodium in it. Actually, no. Don't want the sodium in it. Okay, so here's another trick. Pick up the sodium, but don't do anything with it. Instead of picking it up, just hover over it, like so. There's a button for quick transfer. For me, it's the left button, and then hit X. And it'll just quick transfer it to the top item in your menu. Okay, so I want to fuel my inverter, my refiner, excuse me. And then I want to drop those marrow bulbs in here, because those make sodium and clear up some space. And once again, I don't have to stand there watching it. I can just pick it up when it's done. Now, as I said, the refiner actually takes up space, but it does something else too. It has a space of its own. So, something that we don't actually need to use right now, we can put inside of it. Actually, can we? No, because when we pick it up, that stuff ends up in our inventory. Can we put this inside of it like so? No, we can't. Someone had told me that we could do that. Okay, so my next management thing is I organize my things like so. Oxygen, carbon, ferrite, and my sodiums. Anything else can come after, but those are the things that I want up top, because those are the things that I always use, so those are the things that I don't want to get rid of. Okay, time to jump in the ship and fly. All systems are functional, seek answers among the stars. So the button that I use to take off is W, but it's not a simple press. It's press and hold. And off we go. If I just do nothing, it'll fly straight towards the mountain. But if I push up slowly, I'll point my nose towards the sky, And left shift for me is boost, and I boost towards the sky. And as I get towards the sky, it'll give me this little graphic. Yes, you're in space. Then it's time for orbital flight achieved. It's telling me to test my flight controls. W. Left shift for boost, which I already did. Space to test the pulse engine. That's like impulse if you're into Star Trek. Impulse drive. Now I've got a message. To do that, I go to my quick menu, which I've already showed you before. Quick menu and hit the one that looks like a message. Incoming transmission. Please identify yourself. And number 1 lets you identify yourself. Doesn't matter what you say here because the person on the other end really can't hear you. Input the coordinates. And coordinates are received. And they are on the other end of this planet. But here's the thing. You don't have much fuel for your ship, and anytime you see a field of asteroids like this, you want to head for that field of asteroids. And you want to head right into it and start shooting rocks. You've got to be basically knife fighting distance from the rocks to get them. And spend 5 or 10 minutes shooting rocks. Small or big, it doesn't matter. Doesn't seem to matter whether the size of the rock. It'll still give you the basically the same amount. And there are hundreds here, so just shoot till you get bored or until you think you have enough. Listen for the sound of another ship or the sight of another ship's contrails. If you hear it, like I hear one coming over my shoulder, stop shooting. Make sure you know where they're at. You don't fire in their direction, because if you shoot at them, you draw the attention of what are basically the space police, and you don't have the weapons to fight them off right now. So, I know the direction they're in, so I head the other way. By the way, the mineral that I need for my ship is something called tritium, which I just picked up 15 of from that rock. Silver and gold are great for selling, and I'll show you where to sell that in a bit. We haven't made it to that point yet. Tritium hyperclusters are kind of like those geodes that we picked up earlier. They just examine down to make more tritium. Okay. 350? Okay, so see that right there? If you examine it, analyze it down, 510, 667, 719, so each one's worth a couple hundred. Okay, so, on to find that red mark, which is right there. And here's the great thing. We're in the middle of the asteroid field, but it doesn't matter. Hit the pulse drive, and the pulse drive will take us right through. And basically we just want to boost right down to the planet, point your nose right at the red dot. You've got a little, what I call a pipper, like your icon basically. And you want to point your icon right at the red dot. Just as you're short of the ship, as actually the point you're looking for is not the red dot this time. The point you're looking for is actually the red dot is actually an approximate location. So I know that the point we're looking for is actually this freighter. So I'm going right for it and landing at the freighter. I land at the freighter. And once again, there's a comm ball, what is called a comm ball, communication ball, and I access that. And I extract the log, which has inside of it that's odd. It's telling me it's far away. That was the location. Why is it telling me it's far away? Okay, so this is how tracking an approximate location works. You go into your analysis visor and hold down on the analysis visor key. And if you notice if you're off the direction, it'll tell you which direction to turn. When you're directly on it, it'll give you a distance. And you run for the distance. So this wasn't the step that I thought it was. There's the steps that I'm on. My apologies. Head for that broken machine. Decipher the signal. And you will find that 16, 16, 16 is a recurring symbol in this game. And extract the plans. And you get a building part. A terrain manipulator, which needs carbon nanotubes and dihydrogen jelly. And a base computer, which needs, if I'm remembering right, it needs chromatic metal, which is made from copper. So, first of all, I'm going to grab this oxygen. And then, this is how you find copper. Find yourself a high point. And then go into your analysis visor and look around the horizon for gray diamonds with a round circle in the middle, like this one right here. Once you find one, mark it. For me, that button is E. I'll put this buttons on your screen. Mark it like so, so that even when you're not looking at it, it's still marked. So that when you're running away, even if you turn away from it for a few seconds, you can still look at it. Once it's marked, let's go ahead and install the tool that you need. Notice that button is glowing, so we'll hit it, install it, and we need 2 nanotubes and 1 dihydrogen jelly. So we go here, and we need 2. So I can build multiples of an item by changing the craft amount. It tells me to build by changing A and D. So I will hit here, D to make it 2, and then hit the button. That gives me 2. And then I need 1 dihydrogen jelly. So I go back here and install those parts. Boom and boom. Okay, now I'm ready to run for the site. While I'm down here, I'll probably grab some of those trees because I'm going to need a lot of carbon for making my base. Okay, so while I'm at the copper site, you will notice if I hit it with my laser, oh, I've already actually switched to the terrain manipulator. Let's switch it to the laser so I can show you what happens. If I hit it with my laser, nothing happens. So, to switch to my terrain manipulator, for me it's the G button. I'll show you on the screen which is yours, so that it lets me dig. And digging, if I point it at the copper site, it lets me dig up the copper. If you see a sentinel looking at you like so, pause your digging for a moment because he will come looking at you. They're like the police, and they don't like you digging up their planet. So wait until he goes away. Yeah, go away. I'm not doing anything to you. Thank you. And then keep digging. And basically, I just want everything that's yellow. There's another one coming up on me. But I've got pretty much all of the copper. More than enough. I'll head back for my ship, which is that direction. And there's a grove of sodium. Remember I was telling you about groves a while ago. And on we go. See if I can make it back to my ship before I run out of sodium. I don't want to have to recharge if I don't have to. It would suck to have to recharge if I don't need to. Perfect. Because the ship will do it for me. Okay, so while I'm on this rock, I want some more ferrite dust. Oh, you'll notice that while I'm on my terrain manipulator, I can't mine ferrite dust. I need to switch back to the laser, find a place where the sentinel isn't looking at me. Anything like that that says advanced mining laser, you don't have that yet. You'll have it shortly. By the way, if you notice all of these rocks say analyze, if you go into your analysis visor, you can now analyze these. Right now it doesn't pay much, but shortly you'll have an upgrade to your Do your thing. Each type of rock can only be analyzed once. Type of rock, type of tree, type of animal. You'll notice that when I scanned that animal, it went from a red dot to a green paw print. So it gave us a couple of hundred units per scan. That red dot's over the hill, so I can't see it. Okay, so back to mining again. We'll need a bunch of carbon and a bunch of ferrite dust. And you notice that once you scan it, many items will have a secondary mineral that they give you. So this tree, for instance, gives you carbon, but it also gives you oxygen as well. Not very much oxygen, but every little bit helps. This rock gives us dihydrogen as well. I like me some carbon. Okay, so it saw me mining. The first thing it'll do is it'll look at me. As long as I stop, it'll stop looking at me. By the way, I noticed when I looked over that direction that there's a camp right down there in the valley. One of the things a camp is, one of the good things about a camp is that campsites are a small trade post like that. What it appears to be is that they tend to be very flat, so they're a good place for creating a base. So I'm going to go down there and grab that campsite, that trade post site. There it is. If you just tap, 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 tap your jets, it'll last a lot longer rather than holding it down. Bit of oxygen right there, I want to grab that. You'll notice it's an unknown building, so I can mark that so I know where it's at. I'm not going to make it before I end up having to recharge. I don't think. Unless there's a cave between here and there. Well, 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 it's a major trading post. An arcade, they call it. Which actually the unknown building is just down from the archive. I'm actually going to make it. Can I make it into the cave? All these stalactites are in my way. I just need to be in the cave for a minute. There we go. So I'm going to stay away from that building, and I'll explain why in a minute. That building is something that sentinels are protecting right now. You don't have the weapons to... I can go up to it, but I can't do anything to it. It's a reinforced door. So I'm going to run away from it. But I can go to this thing here up the hill. Because this thing is called an archive, and it has several wonderful things that I can show you on it. For instance, it has non-player character ships landing at it all the time, so it is a wonderful place for you to establish a base. If you wanted to, you could actually establish a base on the building itself, but I'm not going to do that at the moment. So the first thing we need is chromatic metal. So we drop our portable refiner on the ground, and we recharge our refiner, and we drop all of our carbon inside, and start it going. That'll take a couple of minutes. So let's go get some cobalt while we're waiting. And I'm going to scan the cobalt first. And then start a shooting, because that's going to take about 2 minutes to process. Okay, these plants right here are kind of like the snapper plants and puffer plants above ground, except they tend to give you, usually, sodium. This one here gives you oxygen. So let's shoot it. Usually they'll give you sodium though. And now it's time for you to learn what these are. These are called humming sacks. If you interact with them, they'll pop open and give you what's inside, called a pearl. They're worth money. Even though they look like they're still there, those have already been picked up. Okay, so back down and grab that refiner, which looks like it's already done. Yep, chromatic metal. So copper makes chromatic metal at a 2-to-1 rate. So 2 copper makes 1 chromatic metal. Okay, so now that I've got chromatic metal, I can make my base computer. Go into build menu, drop the base computer on the ground, and interact with it. It'll search, and if there's not another player space within 500, I believe, units, it'll let you claim the base. And everything within 500 units of it. That completes this section of the tutorial. Have a great day.